What is up, everybody? It's Tuesday night, time to talk some football. You guys know me, Loudmouth of the South, SAJ. And of course, shout out to our friends, Sol Rock Cardenas and the end zone helmet painting. Oh, I got to take this thing off my big fat head. Um, but I am so excited for when UFL season starts that I actually get to wear it every game. I am just jazzed about that, right? Because it's a new season, new traditions. Anyways, I'm coming to you from God. Where the heck am I coming? Oh, I don't know if I've used this one before or not, but I'm coming to you from Little Hips restaurant that used to be on McCullough that had the Idiot's Delight hamburger. It was that 4 pound hamburger that you were an idiot for trying to eat it. Yeah, it was
Oh
awesome.
yeah, you've used that one before, but you know what? Hey, we've all duplicated here. That's a good one. What is up, everybody? I am BD. Today I'm in the spirit of kind of something we're going to talk about. I'm going to come from the Wings and More restaurant on Callahan Road.
Excellent.
So
I remember that one. Not specifically, but I definitely remember it vaguely for sure.
Wings and More is my favorite wing place. Uh, they have them in College Station. That's where I learned and loved them. Always had them delivered to my dorm when I went to A&M, and they had a bunch in Houston for a while. They had the one in San Antonio, and Houston. All the Houston ones closed. All the San Antonio one closed. The only one outside of College Station right now is in Corpus. So every time I'm in Corpus, I was gonna make a stop.
I mean, you got to do what you got to do, right, for good food. But yeah, I'll have to go check that out if I ever get back down to Corpus. I need to go down there and see Corpus Brian too one of these days. See what that
Oh
dude's
yeah.
up to. He doesn't watch the show, so he's never going to hear this, so that's perfectly fine. Um, anyways, so lots of stuff to talk about tonight, right? So much went on in the NFL. Full disclaimer: most of the show tonight is going to be talking about NFL. We're going to try and squeeze in some high school, some college, some updates. Kind of going on with the UFL and stuff like that. Thankfully, there's nothing really much to talk about with arena ball. But there is just so much going on that we definitely want to get started with kind of like Thanksgiving, right? You start with the turkey first. That's the biggest thing that needs to be cooked. So let's cook the NFL. Speaking of turkeys, though, why don't we talk about your turkey of a team that can't even lose properly? Okay.
You know, I'm at this point in the season, I'm rooting for draft picks. All right. So I'm not expecting wins. I'm actually kind of hoping for losses. However, there is only three teams that I don't want to lose to: Philly, Washington, New York Giants. We can lose every other game, drop down on the draft pick. We win those, I'll be happy.
Well, I don't think you have to worry about losing to the Giants anytime soon. They can't even seem to keep their roster straight. So,
Yeah, it's a mess. Well, we'll see. We play them this week, so that's our Thanksgiving game. So we already played them once this season, so only one more time, and then we
nice.
can lose the rest of them. Other than Philly and Washington, the other two games for those. But dude, it was a crazy game. I mean, it started with Cowboys had a really nice drive, and then went to go kick a field goal, and the kick got blocked. And he's like, well, all right, here we go. This
Here
is,
we go.
yeah, that's just the kind of game it's going to be. Um, and the defense got a couple pieces back and looked really good. They held Washington to 3 points the first quarter and hell the first half. Um, it was, you know, defense was getting after it. I was actually impressed. Like, oh hell, where are these guys been all season long? Um, Cowboys had another field goal attempt that Aubrey missed. And you're like, well, all right, hell, here we go. He had one blocked and he missed one. So what's going on? And then we ended up kicking one, going in half. And then third quarter, pretty easy. I think Cowboys scored one touchdown. Washington scored one. Only the only Washington missed their extra point. So Cowboys were up one. And then that fourth quarter, 41 points scored in the fourth quarter. I mean, I think most of them were in the last, 4 minutes of the game. It was one of the most ridiculous innings I've ever seen in my life. You had a freaking kickoff return kick return for a touchdown that Turpin had that dropped the ball at the one, and you are, they're like, man, he's going to get tackled inside the 10, and then he goes for a touchdown. And then you got the freaking 86-yard touchdown that Washington had that they missed the extra point on. And then you had an onside kick return for a touchdown for the Cowboys. And it was just, oh, what the hell, man. It was a crazy game.
Yeah, it definitely sounded like it. I tried to watch a little bit of it, but it seemed like every time I turned it on, they started doing well. And so I turned it off immediately because I can't be the good luck charm for the Cowboys. That's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm really surprised. Cooper Rush went 24 of 32, 247 yards, 2 touchdowns. Uncle Rico almost had 100 yards rushing.
Hey, now, 4.5 average, that's not bad.
No, that was on 19 carries, so pretty surprising. The chunky Ewok only had 3 carries for 6 yards total. I mean, that's – you guys need to move on from him. Wow. Nerd bucket.
I mean, really his entire, the entire point of him being on the team, really, what it should be is if we need a yard or two or we're on the goal line, I mean, 2 carries, 6 yards, averaging 2 yards per carry. That's all we need him for. The only problem is we ain't been in no 3rd and 1 or goal line, 1 to go all season. So it's kind of been pointless to have him.
I mean, you're not wrong. I think the plan was good, thinking that, they were going to get to that point, but then the season started, right?
Well, the plan was good. The plan was good to have Zeke as the short yardage guy, the guy to get a hard yard. Right. The plan failed when you never brought in a guy to get the yards before that. So
true. That's what I'm saying. I mean, the plan was great up until you took the opening kickoff, the season opener, and then it was like
the plan was carefully calculated. The problem is they were bad at math.
Yes. So just again, very, very surprising. On the flip side of the ball, Daniels went 25 of 38, 275 yards, two tutties, and 2 picks. Daniels had kind of led the group in rushing, 7 carries for 74 yards. Wow. Who's this guy? Right? And I mean, where are his Eagles at in the conversation? I think they had the bye.
His Eagles look pretty good, so he can.
No, I won't agree to that at all. So how did his chickens do? 37-20 against a beat up under 500 Rams team, and then he's going to come in here and talk smack. It's like
but did you see freaking? You're looking at the scoreboard. Did you look at the stats? Did you see Saquon's freaking numbers?
Oh, I did.
Jeez.
I did.
It was over 300 yards from scrimmage.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in fantasy football when we get to our fantasy football update. Because somebody has Saquon.
I have him on one of my teams.
Look, here's the Eaglets. The Dookie toilet. Yes. Anyways, so back to the Cowboys. Again, very, very surprising game. I can't believe they pulled off the win, and they did it in the fourth quarter of all things, right?
But
So,
they did it in absolute Cowboys fashion. Give up a freaking 86-yard touchdown where I mean Washington makes the extra point, they tie the game. Every time you're like, it's over, Cowboys are like, no, we'll let them back into the game. Hey, so
but wait, there's more.
yeah.
Yeah, it was fun kind of getting the updates and seeing just how things went. I'm really surprised Aubrey missed field goals. That does not normally happen.
He missed the one, the other one got blocked. And you know what? I propose a change in fantasy football. If a field goal kicker gets a kick blocked, he should not get the point loss for the miss. It should go to the defense, special teams. That's what I think should happen in fantasy football.
Yeah, but
because it's not the kicker's fault. It's not the kicker's fault that he missed. He got the kick blocked. The line didn't hold the defense. So the defense and special teams should get the point miss.
I think that's fair. I think that would be a suggestion worth discussing and seeing how to break that down. But yeah, it was a very, very interesting game. Believe it or not, I'm not going to spend too terribly much time talking about the Packers. I don't think it would be fair trying to hype this game up as anything more than what it was. We took on a very broken, disabled San Francisco 49ers team. And Jordan Love is playing well. I'm still not there yet. I still don't think he's the guy, right? We had Brandon Allen was the quarterback for the 49ers. Went 17 to 29, 199 yards, one tutty, one pick, right? McCaffrey only rushed for 31 yards total, right?
And with Brock Purdy being out, man, they needed McCaffrey to have a good game. And Packers came out with a real good game plan on him. Even missing, Purdy and all that stuff, I'm kind of surprised that the Packers were able to handle the 49ers like they did. That was, I was impressive by the Packers. So
yeah, no, very definitely. I mean, our defense actually showed up this game. I wish they would have showed up in some other games, and like against Minnesota, things like that. But we're not in a bad position at 8-3.
No.
I think our record is a little bit off, though. I don't think we're truly playing like an 8-3 team right now. And the reason why I say that is because we have a game like this against San Francisco where we can actually, shut down one of their biggest offenses. And Robert is right. I don't know about the broken finger part.
He did. He broke his finger like 2 weeks ago, and he had a splint on it. They were talking about it and showing it during the game.
Yeah. So all things considered, he did okay. It was just the production from the rest of the offense, right? You can march up and down the field all you want. If you can't get into the end zone and get points, kind of what's the point in that? And to that extent, kind of the same thing with Jordan Love here, right? He only went 13 to 23 and 163 yards. Not bad. 2 touchdowns from it, so that's nice. But Josh Jacobs finally showed up this game, and I think that was kind of the difference here.
That's right? What it is. Y'all leaned on the rushing game, and really, as we get into the winter months and these snow games and stuff, that's what you guys are going to need. So,
right. So it's nice to see that he finally had his first 100-yard game of the season. He averaged 4.08. Emmanuel Wilson averaged 4.56 yards per carry. So we're finally. I don't know if we've got that dynamic 1-2 punch like we used to have, but I think we're getting a little bit closer to it, and I think that is what we need to kind of take some of that pressure off of Jordan Love so that he can start making better throws. And I don't want to say more accurate, but maybe more consistent, maybe a little more rapport with the receivers. Because I mean, we don't really even have necessarily, a star receiver. We've got a couple of really good guys. We've got a hell of a tight end, and was it Tucker Kraft or I'd have to go back. I know it's Kraft. I don't remember his first name. Well, the guy's awesome, man. Incredible hands. Runs a great, slot route. Is a beast to tackle. But besides Romeo Doubs, the only other guy we really have that's a standout is Christian Watson, and Christian's been battling injuries all season, and now it looks like Doubs is injured. So we may have a problem this next. In fact, on Thursday, right? So I'm. Oh, it is Tucker Kraft. I'm a little worried about that. So again, good game for us. Not necessarily the greatest showing because we didn't play a battle-hardened San Francisco 49ers like we did last year. Anything like that. We played a very beat up Frisco team, and their numbers are showing. What I do want to talk about though, and
Robert Rankin, my wife would agree with you here. So
okay, and I want to make sure that he sticks around. Because this next game I want to talk about, absolutely, Minnesota should be embarrassed for themselves. Absolutely embarrassing performance. Okay, and here's why I say that: they beat the Bears, the worst team in the NFC North. And I get it; the division rival games are going to be tight. Minnesota lost the first quarter in that game. Okay, they were down 7-0 to Chicago. And they had like no real answer. Now the second quarter they came back, and they took a commanding lead, and it looked like they were going to do well in the third quarter. But then the fourth quarter happened. Was it 14 unanswered points? That's 2 touchdowns, and Minnesota supposedly has such a great all-around team. You guys let them back into that game, and you had to rely on one Parker Romo to win the game. You couldn't even punch it into the end zone, right? So I mean, come on. That's for a team that's now 9-2. Oh, please. Okay, here we go. Here comes some excuses, right? I can't wait. You're getting these pages from the Cowboys cookbook here?
Hey,
bro. I'm just saying. Again, Minnesota, right? Let's look at the stats. Darnold, 22-34, 332 touchdowns. Here we go. Please, the Bears, no, absolutely not. We shut that down with a blocked field goal, plain and simple. Okay? So I don't, this is what Ed's talking about, that we should have lost to the Bears 1 week earlier. It was a blocked field goal, and typical Chicago fashion, they jumped over our long snapper guy. Man, please. We beat them, plain and simple. And that game shouldn't even have been that close. We should have shut down Chicago also. Oh, here we go. Bring it on, right?
I mean, Rankin, when is he not, though? So,
Yep. I'm talking simple facts. Look at this. Caleb Williams, the guy who has struggled all season long, 32 of 47, 340 yards, 2 touchdowns against
the guy who the rest of the team basically went to the coaching staff and said, y'all need to bench this guy because he sucks.
Yep. And he put up 340 yards on a Minnesota defense. Okay. So, let's talk about that. Okay. I'm just saying, Minnesota.
Sam Darnold is starting to look like the Sam Darnold most people expected at the beginning of the season.
Yep.
He had a nice little run, and he looked good at the beginning of the season, but these last few games for him, it's been kind of rough. Minnesota's been lucky to have John Parker Romo on their team to basically hold up the team and basically be almost their entire offense. So
Yep. Robert's stats are misleading. 22-34, 330 yards. Right? That's pretty misleading because on paper it looks like Darnold knows what he's doing. We all watched the game. That ain't the case. So, I honestly think you're going to start getting the Sam Darnold that everybody knows and everybody expected to show up. So, I got a feeling that Minnesota and Green Bay are going to be switching places real soon, and it's going to be Minnesota that's going to be down in third place, fighting for their playoff lives. Okay. You're gonna have to explain this comment, Robert. They're throwing because they're behind. I'm not. Are you talking about in the score? Like what are we? You have to elaborate on that for me.
well, that's what. Yeah, he's. I don't know if he's talking about if he was talking about Chicago was throwing. I'm assuming he's talking about Chicago. That's why Williams had so many passing yards because they were throwing from behind. But I mean, if you got a good defense, you should, and they're going to be throwing the ball, should be able to cover.
True. Some teams do, yes, some teams do. Other teams will still continue to run. We've seen that happen before, right, Brian? Your precious Cowboys.
No, we don't try to run at all because we know we can't. So
that's true. This season, I'll give you that. I'm just saying, right? Minnesota, you guys are gonna have to talk to your defense and start stepping it up because things are starting to look a little shaky there. Speaking of shaky, though, I think we probably should talk about the shaky game that the Texans had against the 2-8 Titans, man.
Now 3-8.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
How on God's green earth does that happen? Okay.
I mean, division games are always, you throw the records out and you play those a little harder. But I mean, Texans, I understand it being a close game, but there's no way the Titans should have won that game.
No, and it surprises me that CJ Stroud threw 2 picks this game. And that's making me wonder, like, is he feeling the pressure at this point? Is he feeling this need to try and force things to happen to make sure that they get the win in order to stay ahead of everybody and get into the playoffs? And obviously that's not necessarily the right thing to do here because you don't want to it's a once in a lifetime kind of thing to be a quarterback like Brett Favre, right? And Robert, you're right. I mean, that's something to take into consideration.
Yeah.
When you don't have an offensive line that's holding, you do have to scramble, and it does force you to put the ball up in the air into play more often, and that does lead to those 2 picks that we just talked about, right? And that stat is not any more clear than in Mixon's rushing yardage this game. 14 carries for only 22 yards. Now, when has Mixon had a game that bad, right?
Oh, I can't remember one.
So this would be the time. Well, in fact, actually, before the trade deadline would have probably been the time to start looking around and seeing, hey, what teams have offensive linemen that we can maybe make a deal for and trade, right? So that makes me kind of wonder about, the ownership and management of the team. Are they focused on, trying to, get into the, playoffs or a playoff scenario as cheaply as possible? Or are they focused on trying to, produce some quality football here? Because what I'm seeing is the former, that they're trying to do this on, a shoestring budget. And, they have all their money tied up in Stroud and Mixon. and maybe a couple other guys. But they certainly don't have any money tied up in that offensive line. Like, that's just
Yeah, but
ridiculous.
I mean, you got Diggs, who was supposed to be, the game changer for Houston, and he's out for the season. You had Nico Collins, who he's only, he missed 5 games. He's only on his second game back. So, I mean, Stroud's had to do it all these last few games because he hasn't had the receiver support that he was expected to have going in.
True, but I mean, if Stroud is as good of a quarterback as we think he is, like basically what he showed last year, he doesn't necessarily need all those, fancy high priced weapons. He should be able to be putting it on target, and these guys bringing that ball in. 2033, man, that's 13 missed opportunities. And I'd have to go back and for example, Nico Collins. He was targeted 9 times, only caught 5. Granted, it's 92 yards, but still, that's 4 that he missed. Tank Dell missed 2. Cade Stover missed 1. Mixon missed 1. And then Mechie, I don't even know who that is. He was targeted 3 times and only caught 1.
That's probably why you don't know who he is.
Probably. And Robert, I mean,
Yeah, Tunsil's hot garbage on that line.
yeah.
And he has been for a while.
So then I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate here, right? As Robert said, Stroud is on the rookie deal. That should be ending this year, right? No, it's next year. So next year should be.
No, he was a rookie last year, so you got 3 years and then a 4th-year option.
Okay, so then, okay. So last year, this year, next year should be his 3rd year, and then Texans have the 4th-year option. Do you continue to push forward, try and do what you do, and just kind of take the losses as they come and whatever, and keep yourself in decent enough shape to focus on next year when that's kind of your money deal, right? So you can actually, start asking for the bigger contract. Or do you just ball out and just try and get that, that championship ring, kind of like Mahomes did?
I mean, you want to earn yourself a contract. You get a championship on a rookie deal. So,
I mean, I don't think you're wrong at all. I mean, especially with a broken offensive line. And I don't know that I've ever heard a quarterback do this before, but I think in Stroud's case, I think I would negotiate for a little less money and get some get some offensive help, or offensive line help. Be like, I'll take 10 million less per year. You give me a couple of guys that can block and keep me safe, man.
Exactly.
And Robert, no, I didn't see the Fairbairn missed kick. So
I didn't either.
I'm actually going back and looking at the stats right now.
And you're right, Rankin. That's absolutely what Brady did his entire career. That's why his teams were so dominant for 20 years.
And he had some incredible help around him too, right? We just
talked to because he had it because the team was able to pay for that help because they weren't, Brady could have commanded the highest salary in the league. He just didn't. He allowed the team to build around him with what they could have paid him. I don't understand why more quarterbacks don't do this. So,
and that's a great question. I think probably the best answer I could give you in that is that's the difference between somebody who's playing to create a legacy versus somebody who's playing to make as much money as possible, right?
Yeah.
I would say some of the greats probably did that throughout their career. I would be very interested to see if, guys like Montana and Young and some of the other greats from yesteryear had those opportunities to make those humongous contracts and said, no, let you keep some of your money so you can get me more help so we can win more championships and we can all make more money. Right. I think the days of the diva quarterback are something newer, from like maybe the 90s on. And obviously we're seeing the results of it. Right. And I hope Stroud doesn't necessarily turn into one of those. And Robert, you're right.
Yep.
So, Purdy's about to get paid. Brady definitely didn't take the salary that he could have in order to keep those pieces around him. Look, Mahomes, right? This is a great example. This is a current example, in fact, where you've got a quarterback taking less to make sure he's got more weapons.
I don't know how much less he took because he got a damn good contract. It was just the way it was structured was, I don't know how they do it. Maybe you have more in it as bonus as opposed to salary, so you can, they were able to distribute the money so the team could still do stuff. They weren't completely handcuffed by the contract.
Right. And I think I've got a feeling, again, I don't know CJ Stroud personally or anything like that. And, if you,
I thought y'all were tight.
No, we lost contact after, before he was born. So, but I'd like to think that he's a smart businessman and he's going to be looking at longevity, right? So where am I going with this? The basic thought
All
is
right,
this.
Take us with you on the journey.
Okay. Everybody buckle up. Here we go. The thought would be that you're looking for longer term, right? Because the longer you play, the longer you get paid. Even if it's less now, stretched out over a longer period of time. And it sets those opportunities to be like a Tom Brady and have 18 million Super Bowl rings and championship rings and all these other things, right? That's how you cement that legacy. I'd like to think that with the salary cap and all that, people are starting to think about longer term rather than, let's do this right now. I wouldn't be surprised if Purdy started thinking about, something like that also. Like if he decides that he wants to stick with the Niners for his entire, the rest of his career. If he didn't do something that's a little bit more team friendly, so he can get more.
But I don't. Purdy is not gonna demand the type of contract that a CJ Stroud would, a Mahomes, stuff like that. I mean, he's an above average quarterback, but he's not a top. He's not a top 3 quarterback. He's not a top 5 quarterback. He's good. He fits in really well with the way they play and their scheme and stuff, but he's not that amazing quarterback that deserves top dollar.
And you're not wrong, but I mean, $5 million a year, right? Probably not that much in a quarterback contract. But that could be the difference in getting a little extra help on the line, right? That's $2.5 million for 2 different players. Right. So Purdy, hopefully being a smart quarterback, will say, you know what? I'm going to restructure mine to take a little bit less. And I mean, Robert's not wrong, right? In this statement here. Let me finish my thought and we'll get back to this. But if Purdy's smart, he'll take less to get more protection around him to then be able to continue to play longer and do more. Right now, let's go to Robert's comment with Prescott getting 60 million versus what is Purdy worth. I think that's a little bit of a kind of lopsided example, only because it's Dallas and Dak Prescott that we're talking about. Was Prescott worth the $60 million that he got? I mean, arguably no. Okay. Um,
Now,
but he
now,
got what he got.
however, though, Prescott's not worth the contract that he got. But if you look at stats and stuff like that, Prescott's probably a better quarterback than Purdy. Just as a whole, Purdy just has a much better team around him and a much better coach. So Purdy's a lot more successful.
Let's see. I want to look this up. Brock Purdy's sitting at 2,613 yards for the season, 8.5 yards per attempt, right? Let's just look at those, and then let's look at Dak Prescott. 1978.
Oh, well, you can't look at this season because, I mean, Prescott's been out half of it, and
true, but just on average, 2,613 yards by Purdy, 8.5 yards per average. Prescott is sitting at 1978, 6.9 yards per average. So a little bit of a discrepancy. Let's look at 2023 and see what we come up with. Prescott, 4,516, 7.6 yards per average. Purdy, 4,280, but 9.6 yards per average. So they're not exactly the same quarterback. And from what I'm seeing from these numbers, Purdy was the better quarterback, right? We had 590 attempts on 410 completions for Prescott. We had 444 attempts for 308 completions on Purdy. So you're looking at a difference of 0.1% completion rate. Okay. Robert, you're not necessarily wrong. I mean, that explains why you've got so many rookies that are being kind of thrown into the fray. And, it is kind of a problem with, the law of supply and demand, right? When you're low on something, you're willing to pay whatever to get that chance. Hence the $60 million for Prescott, stuff like that. And I wonder if he feels bad about robbing the Cowboys as badly as he did, but probably
Doubt
not.
it.
Probably not. Anyways, so just some interesting stuff going on there with the quarterback controversy, if you will. One other one that I want to talk about, just from a nostalgic standpoint, right? That Pittsburgh versus Cleveland game. What was your take on that, Brian? How did you feel about that game?
Man, I'll tell you what, just to me, there's no better visual than watching football in the snow. Just seeing just a snow-covered field and the guys running it. You just, I love watching that. And it was just like the game was cool. Like it was a close game, and Cleveland came out with the upset, but I'm just enjoying the view the entire time. I'm not even really paying attention to what's going on.
In my opinion, probably one of the greatest games visually that we've ever seen. Right now, granted, I mean, there's some other ones in history, but to me, nothing says football like a snow-covered field and just cold, miserable temperatures and people just slugging it out there, right? Like the Ice Bowl. It's just.
I mean, you see the snow on the field. You see the linemen just sitting on the bench and just steam coming off their heads. Like I love that. I love that.
Yeah. It's just classic stuff, man. So I just wanted to make sure that we talked about that game just because, again, visually it was just one of those things where you watch it and you're like, holy crap, this is freaking perfect.
Yeah.
So Mike G sent over a message to us about the quarterbacks. And he's not wrong with that, but I don't want to get into that. We already talked about quarterbacks. We're moving on. This that's funny, Robert. Captain Crab Legs. That was good. I've got to say, did you see his pregame interview?
Oh yeah, I was just about to say that. So like, call your mama, call your auntie. We on TV. We gonna be on TV. I remember. I think it was when he was with the Bucks. Bucks or the Saints, one of those two teams. When he was trying to do his pregame pep talk, and he was like holding up the W. He was like, "Everyone, eat that W, eat the W," and his teammates were like, "What the hell are you talking about, man?"
Yeah, Winston
that's what that reminded me of.
It's hilarious. It kind of reminds me of when everybody was bagging on Wilson when he kind of went through his thug phase, right? And may I buy 2 drugs, please? Right? Just one of those guys that's just so goofy and great athlete, but just kind of disconnected from the real world, man. It was hilarious. But yeah, it was an incredible game, and I'm so glad that we got a chance to watch that. So we obviously spent a lot of time on NFL. I want to make sure we talk about some Deshaun did look at him. He's like, "What?" It was classic. Anyways, let's switch over to college football because we got to get to that. There is probably arguably one of the most anticipated games coming up. It's a game that we have not seen in, forever, right? But this is potentially a classic in the making, or maybe not. B, what do you think?
So first, obviously we're talking about A&M UT. I mean that's the game. That's the game we're talking about. First, we'll highlight kind of last week's game. Obviously, A&M lost in 4 overtimes to Auburn. Tough loss. Auburn came out. I think went up 21-0. A&M looked a little unprepared. They kind of got punched in the mouth, but they came back. And credit to the team, credit to the coaching staff for kind of getting the team turned around. Man, it was just too many mistakes. There was a drop ball on a 4th down play in the 4th quarter, I think. That last overtime, they went for the 2-point conversion. I think Daniels dropped the pass, and I mean, that would have been 2 points. We would have gone into the next overtime. Aggies should have won. They didn't. It sucks. But you know what? Hey, we're on to next week, and this week is the game that everybody cares about. UT, first time playing them since 2011. Winner goes to the SEC championship. So, dude, I'm beyond excited for this game. I said it's been since 2011 since we played, and A&M got screwed in that game because there was a bull crap, unnecessary roughness penalty or late hit penalty, whatever they called. They gave Texas the ball. It would have been like 2nd and 15. Gave them a first down, 15 yards, and they went to kick the field goal. It was a bullcrap penalty. Never should have happened. A&M should have won that game. So I've been bitter about this freaking game since 2011. So this is some payback here. All right. Texas was too scared to play A&M. A&M tried to revive the rivalry soon as when they moved to the SEC, and old freaking DeLoss Dodds from UT didn't want to do it. He said, nope, A&M UT are never going to play again. So, they didn't want to play us. Then, a couple of years ago, they tried to, maybe the next 2 years we can have a little home and home series. Sorry, our non-conference schedule is already set. You got to plan ahead. So they try to throw that out there and like, oh look, A&M doesn't want to play us. No, we do. You just conference schedule is already set. So it's been brewing for 13 years now, and I'm just I'm stoked. I'm so excited for this game, dude.
You're here for it. Well,
I am absolutely here for it.
I've never been one to be an Aggies fan, and my loyalty, while it is with UTSA, UTSA is an offshoot of the UT program. So I'm rooting for the Longhorns, man. And I hate to say it, but I think you guys are going to get trounced this game, and it's going to be messy.
Man, UT has won the only real teams they've played. Georgia, they got stomped. They played Michigan. Yeah, Michigan was ranked number 3 or whatever it was when they played, but Michigan sucks this year. They struggled against Vanderbilt. They struggled at the first part to Kentucky this last game. They struggled against whoever they played a couple weeks ago. So UT is not the powerhouse that people would want you to believe. A&M has every opportunity, especially the defense that we've got, that we can win this game, and I fully think we're going to.
Well, I guess we're going to find out on Saturday, aren't we? So this is going to probably be one of the most watched college games this weekend.
Oh, dude, it's one of the most. I guarantee you, it's going to be the most attended game in College Station history. The tickets for this game are absolutely outrageous. If anybody wants to buy me an early Christmas/birthday present, go right ahead. I mean, the top corner of Kyle Field tickets are $800 a piece.
I would buy you one for Christmas and your birthday, but it would cover you until probably 5 years after you die. It would cover all.
I'll take it. Birthdays. I will take it. I don't care.
Nah, I'm not doing that.
Dude, they have a front row seat was going for $10,000.
Yep. And somebody's going to probably wind up buying it.
Oh yeah. These tickets are insane. And I wish I had the money to go, because that would be I would absolutely pay it if I had it.
Yeah. Around the league, just a couple of surprises. Oklahoma beat number 13 ranked Alabama, and decidedly, I was really surprised about that, because Oklahoma's been otherwise pretty terrible. So to make and
they stormed the field twice.
Yeah. Oops.
You know what? Let's go back. Let's do that again.
Oops. Not yet. Not a surprise that Notre Dame beat Army, but I'm worried about that game because UTSA is going to be playing Army next week, and Army's going to be angry, and it's not going to be pretty for UTSA. I was surprised again. Kansas beat Colorado, 25 ranked Colorado. And then where was the other one that I saw was an upset?
Arizona State beat BYU, and just like in the Oklahoma game, Arizona State fans rushed the field twice.
Yeah,
like, come on, that's the third time I've seen that this season.
But the exercise,
obviously those two, and then it was Ole Miss. It happened to them a few weeks ago.
Yeah. So, the exercise is good for them, so we'll just leave it at that.
Speaking of Ole Miss, Florida beat them. That was another upset.
Yeah.
And then, Minnesota almost beat Penn State. Penn State only squeaked out a 1-point win. So
that was the other one I was looking for. I couldn't find it.
Yeah.
I saw that one and was like, oh. But so yeah, stage is set this next weekend. Should be some pretty good games. Real quick, Texas State played. They actually lost to Georgia State, which is not, horrible overall. They should be fine. They've got one more game this Friday. They're playing South Alabama. There's a real quick shout out that I wanted to do. One of our followers, Scott Little, longtime friend also. His cousin, I believe it is, or nephew, is actually on the squad for Texas State. And it's interesting because I looked up his stats on the roster, and he's a freshman quarterback. The current quarterback is Jordan McLeod, right? 5-year quarterback. Um, but this is his redshirt senior year. And so uh, he should essentially be done, right? Um, that being the case, like who's the next guy up? And if you go and look at their roster, they're carrying 5 quarterbacks. So
Damn.
the young man we're talking about is, I believe it is Brad Jackson. He's the quarterback from Reagan from last year. He's looks like he's got pretty decent stats, but he's the only quarterback that has any other stats. So that tells me he's got to be number 2 on the roster. And so when McLeod goes, who's up next? Who becomes QB1? And so I'm kind of hoping for this young man, Brad Jackson, to get an opportunity because the numbers that he's put up so far, if I can find them, he's 4 of 9, 44% completion rating on his first game. Actually, let's look at the totals. He's 8 of 15, 118 yards, 1 touchdown. His longest pass is 60 yards. Okay. So that's,
I mean, pretty small sample size, but
yeah. But he's the only other one that's shown any stats. So hopefully, something good comes from that. But so we'll be trying to keep a little bit closer eye on him because there's a little bit of a personal connection there. Not that we're rooting for one guy over another one. We just want to see, we want to see some good football.
Oh, sure we are. We can root for one guy over another. That's
I guess we could because
totally our wheelhouse.
It's our show. We can do what we want.
Exactly.
Right?
It's our show. We do what we want. All right.
Speaking of our show, UTSA decided to say it was our show last Friday, and man, did they put it on Temple. Not that Temple didn't try and come back. I mean, 27 points is not anything to scoff at, but UTSA actually got a win of 51 points. And the only other time that they've seen a score that high was when they played Texas, and Texas put 56 on them. So otherwise, every game has been.
Oh, that's what that looks like.
Yeah. So with that win, UTSA has become bowl eligible. They're probably going to wind up in the Tidy Bowl if they do wind up in any bowl. Because again, they've got Army this next.
The Whitey Tidy Bowl.
Yes. Well, I was saying the Tidy Bowl, like the toilet bowl cleaner, but
okay.
You can fantasize about whatever you want, man. This is America. But again, they've got Army this weekend, and that's not going to be a pretty game. Army's going to be coming in angry, and historically speaking, UTSA has always struggled with Army. I don't think they've got a single win in the 10-year program against Army. Now they haven't played them every year, for the last 10 years. I would say probably the last 4 or 5, something like that. But they have not gotten a win against Army that I'm aware of. And this year probably isn't going to be any different. So it's going to be a little bit rough for them. Now, kicking over to UIW real quick. UIW took out East Texas A&M this weekend, 38-24. I think they're like 9-2 on the season. So they're not only are they eligible for whatever bowl game they have in that D2 structure.
Well, that was them. They made because they released the playoff bracket and they were on there.
Right.
Yeah.
But they've got a first round bye.
Yeah.
So that's why, like, if you look at their stats,
so that whatever, that division, they don't do bowl games. They have a playoff.
Just a playoff bracket. Okay.
Playoff bracket.
It kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Right.
Yep.
But so yeah, they've got a first round bye, so they will not be playing this weekend. They'll be resting up for the second round and getting ready to take them on. And then, of course, TLU is going to Portland to take on a game there. Let me look that up real quick because I can't remember.
Was that this weekend or was that this past weekend?
No, it's this coming up weekend after Thanksgiving. They're taking on. Who the heck are they taking on? I guess I should probably look at schedule, huh? And it'll probably tell me. Anyways, they're going to. It is a championship game. They snuck in with a win last week, so they'll be in Portland, taking on whatever Portland team that is there. And of course, Coach Tom, longtime friend of the show here, his son Josh Walker, the all conference center, or should be all conference. It looks like he's hopefully going to get nominated for that. But he'll be in that game also. And there's a lot of doubt about what they're going to do in this game. They are like 30-point underdogs, and yeah, it's not looking good. But I mean, let's be honest. We're talking about a bunch of Texas boys playing football.
Yeah,
and
don't tell them they can't play, because they'll go out and prove you wrong.
Right. And so I've got a sneaking suspicion that's probably going to happen also. And so they'll win this one and then come back home to play their final game of the season. So we're definitely, rooting for Texas Lutheran. We're our eyes on them. And with the last couple of minutes we've got here, let's go ahead and do some high school updates. I was trying, and I wish we could, filter this down to San Antonio teams. But it looks like
I mean, really, there's not a whole lot that you need to know. No real surprises, no real upsets. Steele won, Brennan won, Piper won. I think the score that mentioned real quick that you saw, Jay, was Davenport. Davenport beating Manor New Tech 91-18.
Yeah.
Holy hell!
91. By a high school team.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I'd like to say, and I haven't looked up the stats, so I don't know. I don't know what the highest score was on a high school football game. I'd like to think that Judson of old, rather, would be mentioned in that conversation at some point in time.
I don't ever remember hearing Judson putting up 100 on anybody. So
not that high, right? I would love to, if I have a little bit more time, look it up and see what the highest high school score was, but that is just ridiculous. Meanwhile, Canyon won. They beat Medina Valley. Harlan beat Clark. Steele beat Laredo Alexander. A lot of the schools that you would expect really kind of whooped up on everybody. Holy Cross beat Tyler Bishop Gorman, and I mean they beat them 63-6. That's you just feel bad for those kids, man. Somerville beat D'Hanis 45-0, right? Just rough games, man. Rough games. But speaking of rough games, let's talk about fantasy football. So how'd you fare?
I hate fantasy football. I went 1-3 this week. I had a pretty bad week. I had a lot of players that were either on bye or I had Brock Purdy in a couple of my leagues that, whatever it was, Friday night, Saturday morning, decided he wasn't going to play. So I was scrambling to find a quarterback, which didn't really help. But no, I didn't have a good week. So this week I hate fantasy football.
Yeah. I went 3-0.
I did win our money league though, so at least there's that one. My one win is one of the leagues that I wanted to win.
That's good. Like I said, I wound up going 3-0, and the league that I'm in with Coach, it was kind of like Helen Keller was driving that game because it was all over the place. Like I played. By the way, hashtag Hope for Hope, right? You guys want Milton Hope in the Dome? Start the movement here. We've been talking about it for a while. Get that hashtag going. Hope for Hope. We want him in the Alamo Dome, and we're actually going to be interviewing him in a little bit on Horns Forward podcast, but you didn't hear that here. Anyways,
but you would have heard if you were watching us last night. So
exactly. I played against Milton Hope, and Milton's a formidable adversary. He knows football, and that game bounced back and forth, several lead changes. But I wound up getting them last night, and I wound up beating him by like 6 or 7 points or something. So I'm sure he wasn't real happy, and I'm sure he's probably going to cuss me out on the other show. And that's okay. I'll deal with it. But yeah.
Are you saying you know more football than Milton Hope? Is that what I hear?
No, I think I'm just a lot luckier than he is.
Okay. So, good call.
Yeah. I'm not going to say anything like that about the guy who probably invented football. So, but yeah, I got lucky. I managed to clean sweep, and with the way this season has been going, or I should say the way it started out, anyways. I was just hoping for like 3 or 4 wins overall, and now I'm above 500. So I'm pretty happy with that. So the only other thing I think we have left to talk about is speculation, of course. But I'm sure everybody saw it. We shared it on the Facebook page. UFL has come out and said that they are, in fact, going to expand for 2026, which is exciting, right? It's exciting for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, that means more football for other people, potentially for cities that have had teams or cities that have wanted teams but haven't had the opportunity for it. But the other thing that's exciting about it, and I think that's more the side that I want to focus on here, is that if they're talking about expansion, that means financial viability, right? Yep. We're at a point where we're making money. Now, I don't know about you, B, but I haven't seen any financials come out for the UFL as of yet, right?
I remember seeing something that they did lose money this year, but not as much as they were anticipating. So it was better numbers than they expected. So what the numbers were, I'm not sure, but
well, and our one biggest complaint about the USFL side of the house was always that it was always kind of fuzzy math, right? They never really showed you how they came up with their formula to show that they made a profit or anything like that. Again, we're not insiders or anything like that. We don't have access to the financial information. What you guys see is what we see. But I would like to see a little bit more. Right here, Mike's got a great comment. But I would like to see a little bit more transparency in the financials, just so we know, hey, look, this is what's going on. This is what's happening. This is what we need to do as fans, right? Because again, the TV money drives the thing. But the fan attendance makes it a real game, right? Because otherwise then you just have spring football like what we had here before, where it was just the gray team versus the blue team today, and it's kind of hard to get into that, and it's kind of hard to connect with that.
Or you have games that look like the Houston Roughneck games last season, with like 10 people in the stands.
Wow, 8 of them were us, but whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
But so let me ask you, just your unprofessional, completely biased opinion, what 2 teams would you like to see come back? Or where would you like to see 2 teams be placed?
I think I want Seattle to get a team. I understand why the decision was made to kind of cut them out of the UFL, but I do feel like the city kind of got a raw deal. They were one of the highest attended teams, for the XFL. So I feel like they have earned a spot in the league. Now, to do that, you would think you would want to maybe match, maybe another team on the West Coast. just to have kind of another team in the area, it's nice to kind of have a rivalry with a team that's kind of close to you. So there's the San Diego potentially. They're kind of hungry for football ever since the Chargers left them. I probably wouldn't do something in like Oregon or anything like that because you'd build a stadium out of like homeless people feces, but you know, uh, maybe Seattle and maybe San Diego. I mean, I know there's a lot of other deserving places probably too. But Vegas, I know we talked about that a little bit last night on Horns Forward. How even though it was a low attendance, attendance versus like percentage of capacity was actually fairly high for Vegas. So maybe Seattle and Vegas, Seattle and San Diego, something like that.
I don't disagree with you. And there was actually an article that I saw, and I forgot to share it to the page, just because I was having a hard time getting it to share correctly. Seattle is not a bad idea, right? We know what they bring. The only concern I have with that is the travel costs. That's the big reason why they got clipped in the first place. So bringing back a team that is that expensive to travel, to and from, may not necessarily be the best option in, round one of expansion talks. I know there's talk about Vegas, and with the stadium issues and everything like that. There's potentially other, or the venue is being sold to the city or something like that, which gives them the option to be able to control it better and do more with it. So Vegas could potentially be an option. Any California team, I'm a little bit leery of just because of the different labor laws and everything that are there and what that effect has on the league. Because if you're doing something for one market, you're going to kind of have to do the same thing across the board. And California does have some ridiculously strict labor laws for, that benefit the employees. And it's a great thing, don't get me wrong. But it would cost a lot of money to do business in California. So one idea that was thrown out would be like Salt Lake City. Because remember, Salt Lake City had the Stallions, and they haven't had anything since then. So that could potentially be a new home for a new team. And it's still traveling west, but not as far west. And it's not going to cost as much. So you're getting closer to that West Coast rivalry. And I think New Orleans, as Mike G said, New Orleans would be pretty good. Because, I mean, let's be honest, the Saints fans, they need something, right? And so it might be nice to kind of bring back their team. I don't want to necessarily go too far east because, again, travel costs, right? So the New York, New Jersey Generals was a great organization, had plenty of money coming in, TV views and stuff like that. But again, now you're talking about travel costs. Orlando probably would be the cheaper option, but did they have the fan base? Not really. So overall, I'm thinking if you're going to pick two established locations, you'd have to pick Vegas or potentially start a plant in Salt Lake. And going east, it'd be New Orleans. And if you can find a way to make it viable, maybe Orlando. What I would really like to see, though, truthfully, and it's never going to happen, but what I'd really like to see is I'd like to see Houston move back over to the XFL and give the USFL two places to go play. Canton and New Orleans, for example, right?
Canton. You had Pittsburgh. You had Pittsburgh had a team. New Jersey. So they had a few options from the USFL.
Yeah, but I would love to see the XFL all back together as a whole and the USFL back together as a whole, right? And then that would make it even more interesting for the XFL versus USFL kind of friction that's already there. Because right now it's kind of diluted, right? But again, this is just speculation. We have no idea. We won't know until heck.
We won't know for a year probably. So
yeah, we won't even hear any rumblings until probably about October, November of next year.
Yeah.
So all we can do is sit and speculate. Just let it brew. But with that being the case, again, there's going to be some great football this next weekend. Obviously, some really important college football games. A lot of anticipation about those. Who are obviously? I mean, the Packers are taking on the Dolphins this Thanksgiving. Yep. You guys are taking on the Giants. Yep. Detroit's taking on the Bears. That should be an interesting game because if the Detroit we know shows up, going to be a blowout. But this is a division rivalry game, so Chicago may actually show up and play because they did against Minnesota, right? So it'll be fun to see how that kind of works out. Oh, and keep your eyes on the Aaron Rodgers saga with the New York Jets because I think that's just getting started.
Oh yeah, I'm just eating my popcorn, just watching it. Like
that's all you really can do. I mean, what else do you do with a dumpster fire? Just sit and watch.
Yeah,
But again, some great games. I know we talked about it last night, so I'm not going to waste too terribly much time talking about it tonight. Kind of about what we're thankful for and stuff like that. But we always end the show, giving our shout outs and stuff like that. W Energy Drink, thank you guys for your support this year. Absolutely appreciate it. Alternative Football Network, Mike G, AFN, Pro Arena Talk, all the guys that help us do what we do. But I do want to say I'm thankful for you fans, right? You guys show up, you interact with us, you give us great topics to talk about and help keep us going. So truly, from the bottom of my heart, I'm thankful for you guys. Thank you for everything that you've done for us we're on episode 89. That's almost 2 years of us fumbling our way through this show and trying to be entertaining for you guys. So thank you. B, you got anything?
No, I mean, as far as thanks, stuff like that, I mean, if you watched the show last night, I mean, I'm thankful for everyone for just letting us do this, letting us come on for an hour plus every Tuesday and just goof off, have fun, talk about the sport that we love. So it's couldn't ask for anything better.
Yep. And I side note, I specifically love riling up Robert, and I've got a special message for him on my MySpace page if he wants to go check that out. But again, guys, thank you so much for everything. We hope you have a wonderful, blessed Thanksgiving this year. We hope you have some quality time with friends and family, that it's a memorable year, and that you guys have a lot to be thankful for. I know we do, and a lot of it is because of you guys. So thank you again. Absolutely. And I think on that point, we're going to go ahead and shut it down. B?
Yes, thank you guys. Thank you. As always, hey, go Cowboys, suck it Longhorns, hook this.
Go Pack, go, baby. B, happy Thanksgiving, man.
Happy Thanksgiving, Jay.